Am I the idiot for evicting a family so I can move in? So, background, 6 weeks ago I, 27 female, found out that my husband, 30 male, has been cheating on me for the past 5 years, with a few different women. I immediately moved myself and our kids, 7 female, 5 male and 5 male, to my parents' house, where my brother, 22 male, also lives. Being only a 3-bedroom 1-bath house, it's very cramped, but my parents insisted that I leave my husband's. I've only worked part-time for extra cash since the twins started preschool, 2 years ago, and was a stay-at-home mom for 5 years before that. My husband owned our house, and controlled our finances. I've realized in all of this that I own almost nothing, have almost no work experience, and only have a general studies associate's degree. Had to cut college short because I got pregnant. Suffice to say that I'm freaking out about how I'm going to provide for my kids going forward, because I do plan on divorcing. On top of everything, my grandma passed away 2 weeks ago. She was very private with her finances, and while we knew she and my late grandpa made money from renting houses, she told my mom a few years ago that she'd sold all her rental properties. Come to find out that she kept 2, and in her will left 1 to me and 1 to my brother, only grandkids. The one my brother inherited has been vacant for a bit. But the one I received is a 4-bedroom 1.5 bath with a family of 6 that live there. A single mom, and 5 kids. She's a friend of a friend, so I do know that her husband died in 2020 from you know what. As much as I obviously miss my grandma, this house is an absolute godsend, and I started crying when I found out about it. I told to my brother and his girlfriend, 20 female, how me and the kids can finally get our life back on track a bit. His girlfriend got really cold, and asked if I was really gonna evict a family when I could just live at my parents' until I got on my feet, especially since my brother is now going to move into his inherited house, and make more room. And my brother agreed with her, saying it was selfish. My parents said it's my house and I can do what I want, but they see his point, and that the family living there could easily be in the same situation as me. It's been such an emotional few weeks, so I don't know if I'm being a selfish idiot or not. Talk to a financial advisor. It might make more sense to continue to use the income the property produces to help build your savings so you're on firmer ground to either 1. Eventually move into the house and be able to handle all upkeep needed, or 2. Rent a cheaper place for yourself. You didn't inherit the property with the responsibility to keep the family housed, but if they are paying reasonable market rent, your interests and theirs might be aligned right now. Not the idiot here. Not the idiot, your brother and sister-in-law are for guilt-tripping you. Also, the house your cheating husband thinks he owns, is half yours. Make him sell, or refinance and give you the money. Plus go for alimony and child support. Do all of this while staying at your parents' and collecting the rent from the home your grandmother left you. Now you have cash, an income, and then buy another rental home and start building a rental empire. Good luck. Not the idiot here. I do understand your dilemma, but I also can't help feeling sorry for the tenant. This is just a sad situation all around. My advice to you would be to talk to a lawyer ASAP. You need a clear picture about your financial situation. Start making a list of all the major assets you or your husband owned. The law varies depending on the country you are in, but there are a few things to consider. Unless there was a prenup in place, you are entitled to alimony as your husband was the primary breadwinner. You are also entitled to child support payments. In some places, if one spouse owns a property or asset before getting married, then that asset is not marital property and you won't have a claim to it, otherwise you will. Also, if you are still married, then at some places, inheritance can be a part of marital assets, but this varies depending on location. Now, you need to get yourself in a good place financially and mentally because things might be rough for a while. Stay at your parents' home to save on rent, but do contribute to bills. Save as much as you can from your job and the rental property, and then you can move out when you are in a good place financially. If you get your share from the marital house, then you can maybe use that money for a down payment on a new house. Use the money from the rental property to pay the mortgage, and hopefully your income, alimony and child payments would be enough to pay the bills. And in the long run you will own 2 properties. Good luck with everything, and don't go easy on your ex. Hire a very good lawyer and take his cheating butt to the cleaners. Edit. She's on a month-to-month lease for a little under market rent. I was so focused on the fact that I now own something other than my 15-year-old vehicle that I didn't even consider staying at my parents' for a bit after my brother moves out. I recently started a more full-time position, and my kids love their grandparents, so this makes the most sense while I tackle all of the legal stuff that's coming my way. I'll talk to my parents tonight about this route, which would alleviate a ton of guilt I was already feeling about the possibility of eviction. Thanks for snapping me out of my own head for a bit. Am I the idiot for giving my godson money to change his name against his mom's wishes? My godson Aaron will be turning 18 in a few days. His dad and my best friend passed away when Aaron was 9. He was pretty devastated. We both were, and since then I became more part of his life to share memories of his dad with him. He looks up to his dad and his memory very much, so what happened in this situation has bothered him for years. By the time Aaron was 12, his mom started a relationship with Tom. Aaron hasn't liked how Tom has tried to be a parent with him rather than a guy who's married to his mom. I've listened to his complaints over the years, and while some of it was typical teenager stuff, there was 2 occasions where I was very angry on his behalf, and confronted his mom. One was when Tom was trying to force Aaron to call him dad or he would no longer drive him to school. It's almost a 2-mile walk from their house to the school. We got into an argument and I ended up being the one to pick him up and drive him to school in the mornings until he got his own bike. Then the other was right after they got married when Aaron was 13. She changed not only hers, but Aaron's last name to Tom's. That was something he was completely against. His mom has said Tom is like his father because he's taking care of them, and it meant a lot to him for all 3 to be like a family having the same last name. She wanted him in therapy so he can grieve because to her she felt he was so against the name change because he doesn't want to let go of his dad. Honestly, that angered me so much. No matter how many discussions we had, it didn't change her mind. This has bothered Aaron for years. He's asked her countless times to change it back, so now that he's turning 18 he no longer needs her consent to do it. Yesterday we hung out to celebrate his birthday because I'll be out of town on the actual day. As a gift I gave him the exact amount he'd need to make the change happen because I know he doesn't have the money for it. While I'm happy to have done this for him because he was so happy to be changing his last name back to his dad's, his mom says I'm encouraging him to cut off from them. Because changing his last name after all this time is like saying he still doesn't accept being part of their family. She told me Aaron told Tom he finally won't be stuck with his last name, so they're both deeply hurt by his words and how happy he seems about it. His mom told me as his godfather, and someone he looks up to, I should have pushed him to accept instead of helping him pull away from them. Which is true. I never once told Aaron to maybe accept his new last name. I was always with him on changing it back to his dad's. Not sure if it was the best call to make because it feels like Aaron should have a right to change his name. At the same time I'm too invested in this emotionally, so perhaps I'm biased. Am I the idiot? Aaron doesn't have to be told anything. He knew then what he wanted, and that's to keep his dad's, his, last name. They had no business changing it in the first place. And the mom didn't need any help pushing her son away. She did it all on her own when she didn't defend her child's right to honor his dad. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. He's lucky to have you in his corner. He clearly can't rely on his mom. Not the idiot. You gave your godson money, he's allowed to choose how he spends it. Whether she likes it or not, mom can't control him forever. Now that he's a legal adult, it seems like she'll be finding that out the hard way. It was completely wrong of her to change Aaron's surname with not only a lack of consent, but actual opposition. She refused to change it back, so now he can and will. Seems like she and Tom need to get over themselves, and actually look at what's best for their son. Also, just want to say that if Tom were taking care of him so well, he would not be manipulating his stepson, trying to take the place of his father, and generally behaving in ways that are childish and destructive to Aaron's emotional well-being. Am I the idiot for forbidding my brother bringing his girlfriend to our family events because my husband doesn't like it? My husband is an extremely religious and traditional guy, and he's not a fan of couples introducing each other to family unless they're ready to get married. He only met my family for the first time after our engagement, and that's when I met his as well. I didn't grow up like this, but it's truly something that does not bother me at all, or else I wouldn't have married him. My brother used to date a different girl every month for 2 years straight. My husband didn't mind about my brother's dating life, but he'd flip out if anyone even thought of allowing my brother to let any of his flings visit family gatherings. My brother wasn't planning to, but he got mad over how heated my husband was over this, and told me over and over on who he chooses to bring over to family events is none of my husband's business. For the past year and a half, my brother has been dating this girl, and they're pretty serious. I've met her, so has my husband. She seems like a very nice and sweet person. They've also expressed how they may get engaged soon. The drama had started during Christmas holidays. My husband and I told my parents that if they host Christmas in their house they better notify my brother that his girlfriend is not invited. My parents were mad we requested that, called us unreasonable but ended up following through. My brother wasn't too pleased, and he was mad on Christmas Day that we didn't include his girlfriend. I reminded him that once they make it official she will be allowed to come, and it's not personal against her. He was still mad and he said this is the last time this is happening. Last weekend was my mom's B-Day, and due to the fact she spent her B-Day alone with my dad for 2 years straight she wanted to do something special this year, and host a nice party. Before the party my husband reminded my mom of the no girlfriend rule. My mom flipped out at him, and so did my dad, and they told us we are being extreme with this, and we have no right to dictate who enters their house in family events, and that my brother's girlfriend will tag along whenever she wants whether we like it or not. My brother ended up coming to the party with his girlfriend, and he acted like a champion for defeating my husband on this one. My husband was mad the entire night, and wouldn't speak to a soul. Before we left he only told my brother, "You must feel proud for acting like a C-word." My entire family who was invited at my mom's party was calling us the idiots for having this rule in the first place. You are the idiot. Who the heck does your husband think he is to dictate who can or cannot come to a gathering that has nothing to do with him, and he is not even hosting? If you had a small and intimate dinner party at your own house, sure, the guest list might be more restricted. But this is a party for your mom, in her house, and she has expressed that she wants the girlfriend to be there. It's none of your husband's, or your business who your brother brings along. If your husband doesn't like it, he can stay home. Freedom of religion means everyone gets to practice their own religion, not everyone forced to follow your religious beliefs. I believe that what you meant to open with is that your husband is extremely controlling and psychotic. Religion and tradition have nothing to do with this. He has brainwashed you into thinking this is okay behavior at all. You are the idiot, but your husband is a bigger one. You are the idiot, so is your husband. Your parents are right. Who your brother chooses to bring to family events is none your business. Him bringing a girlfriend, even a fling, has no bearing on you, or your husband. Oh, you might have to extend the basic courtesies to someone. That's literally the only requirement on you. And I doubt that your brother was acting triumphant, any more than your husband was acting like a spoiled brat who didn't get to make the other kids follow his rules on the playground. Your husband was using his religion to do that thing that religions love to do, enforce his own particular sexual and relational mores on other people, and you enabled it. Edit to add, what you are really accomplishing is making sure that your brother and his girlfriend, if they really do get married, will have memories of being mistreated by you and your husband at family gatherings. Yes, the silent treatment is mistreatment. You're literally prioritizing your husband's preference to rule others over your relationship with your brother. Am I the idiot for only keeping photos of my daughter in the garage while my stepdaughter's photos are in the house? My friend suggested I post this here to show my daughter why she's being unreasonable. Title sounds bad, but you'll see why it's actually for the best. My partner's daughter, 20, is well, awful. She was a very dour kid, and often made things very difficult in our house with extreme meltdowns and mean behavior towards my daughter. This was always an issue for my daughter, 23, but she handled things pretty well and understood the position I'm in with her stepmom. But our coexistence all came crashing down 2 years ago when my daughter unleashed on her stepsister and sent her a long angry message about how she was treated, and her opinion of her. In my opinion, her stepsister was indeed a terror, but my daughter is 3.5 years older, and should have understood the tight spot I was in and been the bigger person. Stepdaughter is still a little moody, but she stopped being mean to my daughter a few years ago. Time has passed, and it's time to move on. This understandably made things very difficult for me. My wife dislikes my daughter now and my stepdaughter hates her. My daughter has barely spoken to me for the last 2 years since I moved across the country with her stepmom, and blew up at me about stuff that happened in the last 10 years with her stepmom and sister. Petty childish tit-for-tat stuff like not getting new stuff like her sister, the food in the house being stuff her sister liked, or her sister being mean to her with no interference from us. She claims it rose to the level of bullying, but my own sister, a teacher, said that's just how siblings are, and I agree. She thinks her stepmom treated her sister better, but my wife was very kind to my daughter by thinking of her at all. Many step-parents wouldn't, and she was never mean to her. Only disliking her to protect her own daughter when mine decided to be confrontational. My wife is the breadwinner, and I am not my daughter's only parent, so she did not have to have everything be equal in my house. My stepdaughter on the other hand only has her mother, So of course things were slightly skewed in her favor at ours. That's the way it should work. On to the issue at hand. She came to visit for the first time and saw that we don't have photos of her in the house. I have photos of her in my office in the garage, but she's upset that there are none of her in public in the house, unlike stepdaughter. My wife doesn't want to subject my stepdaughter to photos in the house of someone who messaged her telling her she was a brat, and I can't blame her. Stepdaughter lives here, and daughter doesn't. Why would we have photos of her in view of stepdaughter? You are the idiot. You can't accept your daughter to put up with stepdaughter's behavior just because she's older. If stepdaughter was indeed a terror, you needed to be a parent and have her stop, not make your daughter put up with it, and punish her when she snapped. You shouldn't be playing favorites either. I hope your daughter never reaches out to you again. She deserves better. Honestly, reading this I was gobsmacked. OP is an utter failure as a parent. I hope OP can get his head out of his butt enough to hand off all of his daughter's keepsakes, since it's a short trip from the garage to the trash. And I can easily see how evil stepmom or stepdaughter would do this. Then she should cut contact with you, OP, because you are the biggest idiot for not sticking up for your daughter. She was not treated equally, which she should have been. Nobody defended her when idiot stepsister was a jerk over and over. And then you blame her when she explodes? Everyone but daughter is a trash human, and way past any possibility of atonement. I hope daughter has a happy life without you. You are the idiot. People try their best to come off as good as it's possible in their posts. And yet, solely based on your post, you look like a very bad parent. And I am sure the reality is even more awful than that, if we had a chance to also hear your daughter's side of the story. You've emotionally neglected your daughter all those years over the most ridiculous excuses ever. Her stepsister had issues, my daughter had to be the bigger person all the freaking time. Daddy was in a tough spot, she has another parent as well, she complains about childish stuff. God, you sound insufferable. Why she hasn't cut you off completely is beyond me.